Karthik sir, you can start.
Yes. Very good morning to all. On behalf of EGS Pillay Group of Institutions, Nagapattinam, Tamil Nadu, I am very much glad to organize the international webinar on Business Continuity Plan and Changing Landscape of Education in COVID-19. It's my pleasure to welcome the chief guest and the resource person of this program, Dr.Easwaramoorthy, Principal and Provost, Amity Global Institute, Singapore. I welcome you, sir. I welcome our beloved Secretary, Chevalier Sri S. Parameshwaran sir, for encouraging us to organize series of events like this. I welcome you, sir. I welcome our respected trustee, Sri S. Sankar Ganesh sir, for his continuous support in academic and non-academic activities. I welcome our respected CEO, Dr. S. Chandrasekhar sir, who is always stimulating the faculty members to do new assignments and make us to learn new insights. I welcome you, sir. I welcome our beloved principal, Dr. S. Ramabalan, who is supporting the faculty members for their achievements. I welcome all the faculty members of EGS Pillay Engineering College and the group of institutions. And the most important, I welcome all the professors, research scholars, and students from various institutions as participants of this program. Once again, I welcome you all for this international webinar on COVID-19 Business Continuity Plan and Changing Landscape of Education. At the outset, I am very much proud to introduce our chief guest and the resource person of this program, Dr. R. Easwaramoorthy, the Principal and Provost, Amity Global Institute, Singapore. He is one of the distinguished management professional. He holds a PhD in management and also his degrees in Master of Business Administration, Commerce, Philosophy in International Business, Postgraduate Diploma in Computer Applications, Diploma in Advanced Client Server Applications, Bachelor of Commerce, and Specialist Diploma in Applied Learning and Teaching from Republic Polytechnic, Singapore. He is also Associate Fellow of the Higher Education Academy, United Kingdom. He has taught for University of Northampton, Anglia Ruskin University, University of London, London School of Economics, UK, Victoria University, Australia, and Bardiyar University, and Vishwesvaraya Technological University, India. He is also a member of panel of international experts of IMD Executive Opinion Survey 2015, 2016, 2019, and 2020, which have been published in IMD World Competitiveness Yearbook. Various awards and accolades received are as follows. With more than 20 years of experience, he has been a dedicated lecturer to students at undergraduate, master's, and doctorate level, respectively, in business management subjects with consistent high teaching ratings from students over 48 different countries. His students have become world top scorer in the subjects, namely Principles of Marketing, Human Resource Management, Organizational Behavior, and Interdisciplinary Approach for University of London, the London School of Economics programs. His students have attained a distinction in MBA programs of Queen Mary University of London, Anglia Ruskin University, and University of Northampton, UK. He has also produced 9 university rank holders during 4 years of teaching in India. Overall, he has achieved a high ranking for educational leadership, lecturing, teaching, and curriculum design and research initiatives. He is more of a student-centered teacher who strives to move his students from surface to deep learning. He ensures that students' confidence level is built and motivates them to achieve excellence. His belief and practice is more related to the transmission and nurturing type when it is referred to the TPI framework. Blended with the teaching qualities, he is also good at institution building, achieving success in educational leadership. With this few words, I am very much delighted to invite our speaker to share his views on the topic. So before that, I request our CEO, Dr. S. Chandrasekhar sir, to share a few words. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Karthik, for the wonderful introduction which you have given about the speaker and the topic. In fact, today we all are joined together on a webinar. To start with, EGS Pillay has a specific reason to conduct these type of activities. Because one of the questions which is bubbling across you is, when is the college going to reopen? And if the college is going to reopen, what is that we are going to do? That is the reason why we had requested Dr. Easwaramoorthy. Easwaramoorthy is representing from Amity Global, Singapore. In fact, when we were discussing with him, he said already the classes have been started. So in fact, it was a surprise to us to understand like how is it that the whole world is not able to move forward? Singapore as a country is able to take things very positively. Now, that is the reason why we requested him to handle a session for the upcoming faculty as well as the leading faculties across India to understand how we can take our college management to the forward. In fact, I represent EGS Pillay Group of Institution. EGS Pillay Group of Institution was started by GS Pillay. In fact, he was just studying up to 5th standard. He was not able to go ahead because of his economical reason and financial position. He had to go abroad, work harder, and the most part is 80% of his saving he has invested in education in Nagapattinam. That is the reason why he is called as the father of education, and his blessings makes us to take things forward. The current chairman, Dr. Jojimani Amma, always talk to me and say how and why that we should not do different things. Do things for our people, let our children grow and take things forward. And with her mission, her children also are taking his own way. His sons, headed by the secretary, Mr. Parameshwaran sir, Chevalier Dr. Parameshwaran sir, he's in the vision of person who believes in quality, and that is the reason why any activity we do, we work with quality. And today we will hope that we have a wonderful session, especially during the COVID-19. And I again once again join hands with Mr. Karthik sir in welcoming our chief guest and the speaker for the day, Dr. Easwaramoorthy. Welcome, Mr. Easwaramoorthy sir. We hope to see a nice session from your side. I hand over the floor to you.
Thank you. My slides are visible? Can someone confirm?
Yes,
My slides
yes,
are visible.
sir. Yes, sir. It is visible. It is
Thank you.
visible.
So, good morning. So, it's 1:45 p.m. in Singapore. So, for us, it's afternoon. For you, it's good morning. I would say a few weeks back, 3 weeks back, 4 weeks back, Dr. Chandrasekhar, CEO of your institution, spoke to me of organizing this webinar, this talk with the wider audience beyond the university and institutions of your school. Then I was asking him, do we need to look at something related to certain subjects? Do you want something related to business management, or marketing, or research, which is my area? Then Dr. Chandrasekhar told us that there has been a lot of people doing that talks, and we have a good number of faculty who is managing things, quality faculty managing things. So can you give something related to COVID-19? And again, COVID-19, there are a lot of things in the web, and most of the people know about that. So let us do something related with business management and COVID-19 together. So what businesses have to do, how they have to respond to this particular situation. So he asked me, do you have any Singapore relevant case study or example, how you guys are managing? And I told him, I'll be happy to share how things are happening with Singapore, especially in the area of business continuity plan. I'm not sure whether business continuity plans have been existing in India and how the Indian institutions, I'm not talking only about education institutions, Indian organizations, do they have something called business continuity plan? So we have something called business continuity plan. We have something called pandemic response plan. So this is part of our requirement. So Singapore has been affected by this type of virus. It is not new to us actually. It has happened earlier, H1N1. So before that, we had something on bird flu. So we had last 10, 12 years, we had couple of experiences on this. And the government was actually pushing us to come up with something called business continuity plan. Something happens to the business. What are you guys going to do? How are you going to actually recover? So that is what we have been pushed, right? Early days. And December 2019, before this COVID-19 started itself, we did a review. So yearly we have to do a review of all our plans. So to see whether it aligns to our mission vision. So we actually redid our business continuity plan. So where we brought in, if something happens like this, we should actually have new technology to take over. So that's where we introduced robots to actually do the classroom recording and to actually broadcast to the students. So if the students are not in the school for various reasons. So we had a head start. So I thought I was sharing this to Dr. Chandrasekhar, and then that's where the theme and topic for today's session started. So my agenda is going to be this. So you will have a little bit of introduction which we covered. So then I'll be just going through something basic stuffs about pandemic and COVID-19, and then we'll move to the business continuity plan. Then we'll look at who actually takes care of that. And most importantly, I will tell you something about contact tracing. Singapore is very famous for contact tracing, as it was actually being recognized as a gold standard across the world. So this was even being highlighted by Harvard that Singapore is one of the top countries in the world to have this contact tracing. So we will talk about some of the policies which is more relevant to business continuity plan. Some of the organizations may have this, some may not have it. The institutions, the universities may not have this. The colleges may not have policy for work from home, policy for remote working from institution point of view. I'll just go through that. And then we will do what are we supposed to, we'll go through what are we supposed to do as a business immediately. We will also look at more specific to the teachers. How am I going to engage my students? It is a little bit new to me. So teaching online, or I have to teach online. So what am I supposed to do? So we will actually look at those things. And lastly, I will give a little bit about the situation happening in higher education post-COVID-19 and some online teaching tips. So that's going to be the agenda for today. So let's start with the COVID-19. So almost every one of you know about this coronavirus. It has been often referred as coronavirus. Please understand that coronavirus is a family. There had been viruses earlier. So this particular one is being given as a name as COVID-19. So it originated from Wuhan. My first place few years back, 7-8 years back, I visited China. My first visit to China was Wuhan. It's a very good place. I would say it's one of the top cities. I can't even name one Indian city to that particular infrastructure. It's very, very good one. But unfortunately, the problem all started from Wuhan. And it has actually gone across the world. It spread rapidly across the world. And as an educational institution, as an organization, we have to actually come up with something. We have to respond to that. So that is what we'll be looking at for today. So it's a pandemic. So I'm not here to teach you about or tell you about what is pandemic, what is epidemic, all those things. So pandemic is an epidemic of disease that has spread across a larger region. For instance, multiple continents or worldwide are affecting a substantial number of people. You can see that this disease is everywhere now. So earlier the diseases used to be in certain areas. So bird flu was more of China and Southeast Asia. So you had MERS, which is more of Northern Africa and Middle East. So you can see that a lot of the pandemic or the epidemic we have seen earlier days were restricted to a certain region. This is COVID-19 is unlike that. It has actually affected almost every single continent except for Antarctica. Okay, so as I was telling you again about what is this COVID-19. So it started technically, it was first reported to WHO on 31st December 2019. So whether they started earlier, whether China has data about that, that is all being known. As of 31st December 2019, it was reported to WHO. And WHO declared this as a public health emergency of international concern on 30th January 2020. Only 1st February, the new name was given as COVID-19. Before that, it was being referred as coronavirus disease. So it is technically COVID-19 effective from 11th Feb 2020. So these are a few other diseases, similar diseases, as I was telling you, bird flu, MERS, SARS. So these are all a few other diseases of similar scale. So let me just go to a situation report. So this is as of 21st June 2020. So I've just went to WHO Health Organization. So they publish a situation report on daily basis. And I would say that what is the current status is globally the number of total confirmed case has exceeded 8.7 million. 8.7 million people have been affected, you can see here. And more than 461,000 people have died globally. So these numbers, I know that most of you would actually see these numbers on daily basis. So what is it happening at the global level? What is it happening at your country level? If you're from India, then you look at what is happening with India. And if you're coming from certain state and certain town or city, then you always look at it. But I would say that when you look at these things, look at the transmission classification, because that is very, very important. What is the transmission classification is? WHO says that there are 3 types of classification. One is clusters of cases. So the other one is sporadic, and third one is community transmission. So community transmission is very dangerous because it actually, the disease spreads across the community. Clusters is actually little bit controlled. You will see that it is happening. The problem is happening in certain cluster only, not in the entire community. Certain areas only, not in entire community. Sporadic is here and there. So which actually happens? Maybe somebody who has traveled overseas has actually come back. So it is an imported case. So 1, 2, 3 like that. Let me just show you what is the current one. So this is again as of today's data. You can see India is 410,000. So 410 with yesterday alone, the new confirmed case was 15,413. So this is WHO data. I'm not saying any Indian government data. So I'm just looking at only World Health Organization data. And if you see, I just want to show you only this part. You can see the transmission classification. You can see the one which is transmission classification. So India, they have still maintained that it is a cluster of case. But you see Bangladesh is community transmission, Indonesia is community transmission, Philippines is community transmission, US, Brazil, all are community transmission. The key here is you see that India numbers is going up. That doesn't mean that we are in a very, very serious table. Okay, serious one is when it becomes community transmission. People worry that it should not become community transmission because of our population. The Indian government is very much worried about this. Even with cluster of cases, you have nearly more than 4 lakh people are affected. What if it becomes community? So it's going to be very, very dangerous. So let's hope that things get better in coming days. So that's a little bit of, I want to give you an overview on COVID-19, and I want you to understand how the cases have to be read from WHO point of view. So let's move to the question on what a business have to do. What business, institutions, organization have to actually do, or how they can respond. So what needs to be done is, this is a destructive period. So we have been affected by this particular situation. So how are you going to react to that? So this should not be something which you have to react. You should have actually planned earlier. If something happens like this, what will we do? That is what you should have done right from early days. So nevertheless, some may have done, some may not have done, but in countries like Singapore, government actually pushes all the institutions and organizations to have this business continuity plan. So what is business continuity plan is, it is a process involved in creating a system of prevention and recovery from potential threats to a company or organization or institution. So you know that Singapore is one country in the world. We don't have any raw materials. We don't have any natural resources. Our only resource is actually HR, the human resources. So with this, we have to be very, very careful in what we are supposed to do. So all businesses have to plan this continuity thing. Something happens, how we have to rebound, how we can recover. So you may ask, I want to do a business continuity plan. What should I do? What are all the various steps? The first step, there are different ways of doing business continuity plan. Some might suggest 7 steps, some might say 5, some might say 3. But I would like to put 4 important things which you have to follow when you want to build a business continuity plan. First one is, you have to come up with what is going to be the impact. You have to conduct an impact analysis. So when we say business continuity plan, remember, it is not something related to only virus. It can be anything. Okay, it can be anything. For example, if there is an earthquake, if there is going to be a tsunami. So if these things happen, so how is going to be your business recovery? So how you have to actually respond. So when these type of things happen, so what is going to be the impact? So that is the first thing you have to look at it. So when you look at the impact, you have to look at the various functional areas of your business. Okay, so it might be, for example, if you're a school, you have to take care of your students. Okay, so you have to deliver your service to the students. If you're a company, you have to deliver your service to the customers. If you don't do that, then automatically the customers might actually go away for various reasons. Okay, so you have to actually see which are the functions which is going to affect. Is it going to be the marketing side, or is it going to be, for example, the schools or institutions are now looking at, so a lot of people are in the students are actually in the home. So how am I going to recruit them back to my school? So all those questions come in. Okay, so that identify the key functions that is going to likely get affected heavily, and look at how are you going to receive the resources, and what is going to be the time sensitive matters related to that. So this part is going to be your business impact analysis. Once you do this, then you have to look at, you have identified the issue, you have identified the impact. Now look at the recovery. So what should I do to actually get things responded back? So say that recovery steps. So you have to look at the various steps to recover your business. Then look at who is going to actually take care of that particular part. So when there is a disruption, okay, so this disruption have to be seen by someone. It doesn't mean that it have to be all done by the CEO, or it doesn't mean that it have to be done by the manager or the head of the institution or head of the organization. It may be a continuity team itself. So a continuity team will actually take care of this particular work. And importantly, this continuity team have to be trained and tested. So this should actually be your business continuity plan. So business impact analysis, study the impact, then look at how to recover, then do the who is responsible for that, allot the team, and then come up with the training for that particular team. So this is what you have to do. So when I talk about the team, okay, so usually all organizations across the world, when they work on business continuity plan, they will actually appoint somebody called business contingency manager. So this particular person will be the one who will be looking after the entire, I would say, the BCP process, business continuity process. And if the organization institution is very big, then you may have an assistant business contingency manager. So who will actually support the business contingency manager? So what is going to be their roles and responsibilities? Okay, so what is going to be their roles? First thing is actually they have to actively monitor what is happening. So I have given this example more on virus outbreak so that you can understand, you can see, you can relate it easily. Okay, so you have to actively monitor so how things is happening. Okay, for example, if you see across the world, WHO actually mentions that it is high, moderately high, very high, something like that. So they give the situation with some marks. So Singapore actually has that green, then they make it as orange, then they make it as red, so something like that. So each of the country have their own disaster response system. So they have a way to respond actually. Some might actually make this particular situation is very high, some might say it is only high. So some from very high, they might actually come back. Okay, so this particular things have to be monitored by the business continuity manager. And he needs to disseminate the messages across employees or students. So as an education institution, you have to also disseminate it across your employees and students. So because you don't want your employees to be affected. So as an institution, you're responsible to see how far you can educate your employees that they have to be safer. Same applies with your students. You have to also disseminate the information to the students that it is cluster, earlier it was product, from product it became cluster, and there is a potential it can actually become community transmission in certain areas, so you guys have to be careful. So you have to disseminate the information and also educate them about what are all the various control measures and preventive measures. And not only that, this BCP manager is the one who will collect all the information about all employees or students in case of education institution. So this person will actually have the contact information of all, and then will be the one point of contact for all the issues. Okay, anything related with this this particular virus outbreak or this particular disturbed period, this particular person will be the point of contact, and he will be the responsible for contact tracing and communication across the stakeholders. I will spend a little bit more time on contact tracing because, as I said, Singapore has been very, very good. It has been appreciated by countries across the world, the various associations, that Singapore is one of the top when it comes to contact tracing. So 3 months back itself, we have been rated as the gold standard by Harvard when it comes to contact tracing. Similarly, last week there was one article being published, again a study being conducted about how each of the countries have responded to the COVID-19 situation, and the first 4 countries, Singapore is one among them. So Singapore is actually 4th. The countries include Israel also. Small countries, but they were able to have their processes and systems very, very good. So contact tracing is something which would be good. So I don't really know whether your school or your business has actually done this contact tracing. If it is not being done, next couple of slides will actually help you how to do it. Okay, so this is an example about how a contact tree code actually works. Okay, so this contact tree code helps in contact tracing within an organization. So how you do is actually So you will actually work on split team arrangement. So this entire, you have an employee of around, give an example, 100 people working in your company. So 100 people working in your company, imagine that you have this COVID-19 being, or this virus being affected by all people. So this can potentially pull the entire organization down. So what needs to be done is to spread the risk. What you do is you make it a split team arrangement. So usually companies or organizations work on 2 to 3 sub teams. So for example, if it is 100 people working in a company, then you can make it as 50 and 50. Or if it is 150, then you make it as 50-50 or 30-30. So whatever way it is actually. So it can be team A, team B, team C. And when you actually split this team, remember that you have to understand something called succession planning. Okay. So if one happens to a person, something happens to a person at certain level, then the other person should be able to take. For example, head of the department of one particular functional area have to be in team A, and his equivalent position, maybe his subordinate, have to be immediate subordinate, have to be in the second one. So for example, in Amity, if you see, my CEO is in team A and I'm in team B, so I'm his counterpart. So if something happens to either one of us, then the other one will be able to take care. So like this, at all levels you will have. So you have head of the department MBA at team A, and assistant or deputy head of MBA will be in team B. So something like that. So if one particular team is affected, then the other team is still able to work on the business related matters. So when you split the team, make sure that you have the concept of succession planning being kept. Okay. So when you actually do it, that is team A, team B. But when you do the contract tree code, you can actually have it like MNOPR. Okay, M is, for example, top man. Each of you, it's coding only. You can give whatever, you can have IJK, something like that, or ABCD, it depends on you. So, but we have actually kept it in this way as M is top management, then head of the department is N, then lower level is manager level people, then executive level and non-executive level. So like this, you can actually have, and you have a, so if it is 2, then you have team A, team B, then below that, you have top management, then head of the departments, then manager level. So like that, you can actually have a contact. You can have your own tree down. Okay, so that's the contact tree code, which will help in contact tracing. Okay, so next I would say part of the business continuity planning is it's important for the business continuity manager and the organization to ensure a safe work environment. So now with COVID-19, most of the institutions, I think all institutions in India are closed. And if your students are going to come back, so what you have to do to create a safe work environment. Okay, so first would be actually you have to, this is what has been introduced in Singapore. All institutions have this. So I'm just sharing this with Amity's version of it, which is, I would say, again, governed by the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Manpower, and Ministry of Health. So all three ministries have a coordinating team, and they have actually advised us to do this. One is actually we have to have a travel and health declaration form. Anybody traveling into other countries, then they have to actually declare, and it has to be nil declaration. So from India point of view, maybe even from state to state or district to district, you may have to have a health declaration form, because some of the districts are reasonably good, some are green, some are orange, some are red. So you need to know. So, and if somebody is from green, then you may allow them straight away to come in. And some, if they are not in green and if it is orange, then you may have to actually have something called quarantine period or stay home period or something like that. And all people, irrespective of whether they are visiting, so all of my students and my staff actually declare this on daily basis. Students declare once in a day. So this is a way of me actually getting engaged with the student. I will know about how my students are they good, are they comfortable, how is their temperature. So in my travel declaration form, I will actually have what is their daily temperature, then 4 questions. Are you having a running nose? Are you actually having difficulty? How is your fever? So is anyone of your family member got affected by COVID-19? Are you living in a surrounding where COVID-19 is there? So I actually try to understand what is it happening. So by that way, I'm engaging my students and employees. At the same time, I'm trying to see who is less risky, no risk, or high risk. Okay, we can't say no risk at this point of time, but less risky. Okay, so this daily reporting, we have made it mandatory. Next one is when we talk about safe work environment, you also need to ensure that space distancing part, which you know that across the world, this word has become a buzzword everywhere. So space distancing, you have to actually bring in. For example, I think in India also it should be there. In Singapore context, for a student, we have to give 1.5 square meter in for a student. So if my classroom or seminar hall size is 150 square meter, then I can maximum put only 100 students inside. There may be a lot of space. I may put flip chairs, but still only 100 students are allowed. Similarly, if I want to put 60 students in a class, then I have to have 90 square meters inside. So that's a requirement. So I know that across the world, this requirement is there. So, but with COVID-19, you should actually have 1 meter difference between each. So that's how the government advises us. So there is a potential situation that you have to work on half strength. Okay, something which is normally 60, it will now become only 30. So you may have to actually work on multiple shifts. So those things have to be also looked at. And the isolation room is one thing which most of the companies and institutions may forget. And important thing is, so when somebody is entering the institution, they have to declare their health, travel, everything. So the health, as far as they actually do a check on the temperature, and if the temperature is 37.5, it is greater than 37.5, they're not allowed inside. And if the student is actually in the school for whole day, so morning and afternoon, or teachers or staff members are in the school from morning and afternoon, so they have to do twice. So when they actually, you detect them that they have a high temperature or you have symptoms of COVID-19, you have to immediately move them to the isolation room. So where it is closed and sealed, and call the ambulance, and ambulance have to actually fetch the person. And your isolation room have to be very near to the place where ambulance can actually drive in there. So it is not somewhere inside and you make the student walk across, or to make the student or staff or affected person walk across different buildings or rooms. So again, the risk is going to be high. So always try to make sure that the isolation room happens to be on a corner where immediately ambulance can actually come. At the same time, this has not been affecting the other rooms. And of course, if there is a situation, you have to immediately sterilize, do a deep cleaning. Okay. I told about the temperature screening. So this we have made it as a mandatory. So not only my institution, it's every, I would say every building in Singapore, every office in Singapore is exactly like this. Okay, so June 19th, Singapore has actually moved to the second phase of opening. So when I say second phase of opening, now we are normal. So when we say now we are normal is all students go to the school. I'm talking about the MOEs ones. So primary, secondary, tertiary, all of them are going in. Tertiary, that is at the college level, they have not yet allowed, but rest others, the primary school kids are actually going to the school. And at the tertiary level, they have allowed only, tertiary means degree, diploma, masters, university, these type of institutions, higher education institutions. So for us, they have allowed students to actually visit in case there is lab related. things. If a student is doing mechanical engineering, he may not be able to access the lab in his house. So for those type of people, they have allowed. Okay, so and almost every other thing is okay. We are maximum of only 5 people are allowed to actually gather. So that's the only thing which is stopping. The rest, I would say, most of the things are opened up. This goes even to the swimming pool. So the swimming pool is being open. Cinema is not open. So I'm just giving you an overview. So wherever we go in there, we have to actually do a temperature screening, and there is something called an app which shows us entry check. So you have to check in and check out. Okay, so I take a bus, I take a train, I get inside any of the departmental store, or even if I go inside a saloon, I have to actually check in and check out. So this actually helps in the contact tracing as well. So they will check the temperature, and if the temperature is good, only they will allow me. So same applies here. So in your institution, you have to ensure that temperature screening is made mandatory as part of your health declaration. And if the employees are working remotely, okay, so I told you we have team A, team B. Okay, in Amity, Singapore, we have team A and team B. So what we have done is we have made the Ministry of Education, Health, all have allowed us to start work. The employees can start work. Only students cannot come in. So, but what we have done is actually we have divided ourselves as one is essential service, so which is something related with cleaning, infrastructure matters, IT, technology, internet, server, reception, these type of people, operations people. So these people will be the essential service. They have resumed work. Okay, they have resumed work from early June itself. Then rest of others, it is actually team A and team B. So we again split into team A and team B. So these people actually come on alternate weeks. So team A comes in week 1 and team B comes in week 2. So team A is in the office, and weekend we do the deep cleaning. So if there is any virus or anything related to that, so it's all gone. And team B comes in fresh. So team A and team B is not allowed to mix at all. Okay, so that's something which I want to highlight to you about creating a safe work environment. And make sure that you do visitor registration. So whoever enters in, then they have to actually register. And also a personal protection equipment is must. So business continuity plan, we are nearing the end of that particular discussion. So I will tell you that if your organization doesn't have, start working on that. Okay, so usually how it works is when the situation is not red or orange, the business continuity plan should have done in a dry run. So there's all this remote working from home, and conducting lessons online should have all be done earlier. Okay, and then it have to be actually actually carried out when it becomes orange or red. I can tell you we have done this dry run quite early, last year itself. So by that particular way, what happened is I'm happy to say that the results with online has been far better as far as us. Okay, but by and large, I would say that I know that many of the countries, many of the institutions and the states are now in red. So situation may improve, and you may go to orange, you may become green. But remember that there is always a situation that it can be a second wave also. So you have to be prepared for that. So ensure that business continuity plan is done. Okay, so one of the part of business continuity plan which have to be carried out is you should have a policy for work from home. Okay, so most of the companies, organizations have said, okay, you can go and work from home, you can telecommute, or remote working is fine. But in your handbook, in your policy manuals, do you have something called policy for work from home? Okay, if not, then you have to actually have it sooner, because all staffs should be provided guidelines on how they are supposed to actually work when they want to work from home. First thing is about availability. So if their working hours is 9 to 4, 9 to 6, they have to be available during that time. They have to be available, okay, and they have to respond. So they respond. You have to have a policy about responsiveness. You have to say that when it is a call, then you have to take the call immediately. So you can't actually return the call later. Okay. So for example, if you're a teacher, you are teaching, you cannot actually take the phone call during that particular time. No problem. So within next 3 hours, next 4 hours, you have to give a written call. You have to respond. So when there is an email coming in, then you have to again put a deadline or a little bit of policy related things have to be there. So you have to respond to the email within 3 hours, 2 hours, whatever it is actually. You may not be able to provide an answer, but you would be able to say that you have received it. You may have to actually look into it. So respond. So you have to fix that particular one. So you don't respond, then you will have a lot of issues happening. And the third point is about productivity measurements. So when you see when there is a face-to-face, it's a little bit easier. But when they are working from home, productivity measurements, you should do some sort of ways to work on that. For example, if you're a teacher, it is a little bit easier. If it is an academic community, you know that their productivity can be measured. By number one, so normally they teach 5 hours, 6 hours, 3 hours a day. So are they teaching now 3 hours, 6 hours? Okay. So they have done quantitatively, it is okay. How is the qualitative? Of course, you can actually do a survey with your students and ask how they have done. So that is what you have to do at productivity measurement side. And next is about equipment. There may be situation that for telecommuting, people may not have enough equipment. Some may have laptops, some may not have laptops. And some in your organization may be using only desktops. So suddenly you ask them to work from home, and that becomes a difficulty. So you should actually see whether they are equipped also. Okay, and similarly, the tech support, some may try to work, but they don't have the enough knowledge or awareness to do things. Okay, so you ask them connect by Zoom, connect by Office 365, different tools are there, but they may not be very comfortable. So there should be a little bit of policy on tech support, how it have to be done. Similarly, you should also look at something on security and confidentiality matters. So why I say security confidentiality matters is understand that there is always going to be data protection issues coming in. So if you are using a free internet, which is available, which is an unsecured internet, you may actually transfer the data of your students, marks, everything there. So you have to look at those things. So confidentiality and security is important. Also look at items related to personal health and hygiene. So what are they supposed to do? So when there is a little bit of an issue, so that have to be also covered in the policy for work from home. So that's more of the business continuity plan. So let me just spend 2-3 minutes on what you guys have to do immediately. So certain things we may actually forget, but you have to actually look at it. First one is about the legal considerations. So if you may have a practice of doing only normal signatures, and all approvals might have been given only face-to-face and documented way. But with doing things online, moving towards digital economy, so what are we supposed to do? So what is going to be the legal considerations for e-signatures? So digitalizing documents, how are we going to do it? Okay, so you have to understand the risk, legal implications, and protections for your business. That you have to actually look at it. Okay, so you have to consult your legal team and how they'll be able to help you in this particular thing. Okay, so and next one would be about the business leadership during crisis. So usually what happens is the leaders are going to be very much affected because when it is face-to-face, things are a little bit easier. So you may be a charismatic leader, you may be able to show things in a different way. But during crisis, there is going to be a lot of uncertainties that you yourself have to navigate. Okay, so there might be anxiety amongst the employees. Is it going to be a pay cut? Is it going to be whether my job is going to be there or not? Is it going to be my increment is going to be stopped? What happens to my bonus? So there are a lot of issues going around. As a leader, you have many other things actually. It is not only about addressing the employee side, but you have to look at your customer side. You have to look at your supply chain side. You have to look at your finances side. Okay, so people, you may have to pay many people. So those people will be chasing you. But there may be people who are supposed to pay you. They may not be paying. Okay, so your cash flow issues, everything comes in. So the business leadership is going to be very, very critical. So if you actually show a little bit of worrying things, then automatically the employees get quite worried about it. So they may look at other options. So you have to see very, very careful. You have to react very carefully during this particular crisis. And importantly, you have to look at the business processes have to be rechanged. So you may have a quality department, you may have a department which takes care of policy, process, all those things. That particular department have to do a total overhaul on what they have been doing. So that includes even the digital transformational part. Okay, and the last one is about the HR department, so the human capital management department. So they have to look at various aspects about how the employees are going to be hired for future. So are you going to actually make it mandatory when you hire a teacher next time that they should have taught 30 hours of Zoom classes or 300 hours of Zoom classes? How is their comfort level in using different online tools? Can we have a sample of those things? So you might actually have to overhaul your recruitment strategies, your training strategies, your appraisal strategies. So these are the things that the business have to immediately look at. There are a wide range of things apart from the BCP plan. So, but I would say that this is something which you have to, the business leaders, head of the departments, principals, and CEOs have to look at this immediately. So let me go to the next part. So we have actually looked at business continuity plan till now. So I started off with something related with pandemic, COVID-19, little bit of history, where it started, what happened to WHO. I was telling you about three transmissions, whether it is sporadic or whether it is cluster or whether it is something related with community. Then I moved on to a business continuity plan. So I was telling you about 4 steps. Then I moved on to appointment of business continuity managers, roles and responsibilities. Then we went on with the other policy related matters. I told you about the contact tree code, contact tracing also. So let's move to the next part of the discussion. It is about how are you going to engage the strategies? How are you going to engage? As a leader, you have to engage your employee. As a teacher, you have to also engage your students. So you don't engage, then you have a problem. Okay, so I would say these are the few strategies which you have to actually look at it. First one is make sure that you share all information you can. So give them more information. So once you don't give information, then you're actually creating problems. Okay, so they are a little bit worried. Okay, so make sure that you talk to people. Okay, so for example, what we have done here is every student is being contacted by our student support officer once a week. Okay, so once a week they will call the student and talk. So there is always a declaration student have to do every day. So if he's not doing it, then automatically we will call and chase him. And apart from that, every week at least one call will actually be there from the school to the student. So we are engaging the student. And every 2 weeks we have a counselor actually. So we have a pastoral counselor. So who actually calls the student once in 2 weeks, checks his mental health also. So that is actually being done. So what is this is you're sharing the information and you're trying to come up with different communication options. So try to have a social media channels, come up with something beyond your regular face-to-face meetings. So go take all the meeting to online Zoom or Microsoft Teams, you may have it, or you can even have WhatsApp groups where you can interact. Whatever you want to say, you can actually say there. Okay, and importantly is you have to encourage students and your employees to actually have a work-life balance. Okay, so you can check with your employees. In Singapore also, we have done a little bit of study about this. So work from home, people actually feel that it's more stress. Okay, so why they see that work from home is stress is they have a problem that they cannot actually switch off. Okay, so normally 9 o'clock you go to office, 4 o'clock you come out, 5 o'clock you come out, then you're off to other work. But work from home, your home itself is going to be your office. So you don't really know when to start and when to end. So there may be a lot of numerous meetings coming in. So also look at those type of things. So one example I would say is one day you can make it as no meeting day. So you can actually give it, for example, if they are teachers, then you can say that all Wednesdays no meeting. Okay, all Wednesday afternoons no class for you, so that you can do marking. You want to talk to your students, you have to actually settle things. All those things can be done. So introduce something called no meeting block. Okay, so also every now and then remind your employees about what resources are available. Okay, so most of the institutions may not actually have told these things to the employees. For example, Google, there are a lot of things, Google Hangout, Google Talk, so all those things you can bring in. So your company may have Office 365. Okay, you may be using Office 365 just for email purposes, but Office 365 comes with a lot of applications. Many of us don't actually use that. So it is important for you to keep on reminding your employees about the resources available. Don't take it for granted that they know. Okay, so people may not actually remember, may not be using it. So do that. And most importantly, have regular activities. So when I say regular activities, if it is going to be a school, if it is going to be students you are teaching, don't actually teach as and when you think it is appropriate. Don't do that. Okay. Normal school, for example, if your college is from 9 to 4 means, so you may try to conduct 9 to 4 classes. If you cannot, then make it as 9 to 1. So 9 to 1, always there is a class. Give a timetable and everybody follows that. If you don't make it as a regular one, people will get all sort of things. Okay, so I give an example. My daughter studies in one of the best schools in Singapore. So her classes in the normal day starts from 7 and she ends by 6 o'clock. And even now with online, her classes are always from 7 to 6. Okay, only when there is no the extracurricular activities like PE, the ground-related activities, only that is not there. That also they try to do it online. So they do a little bit of other things online. Okay, so I'm just giving you a strategy how to have a regular activity so that your employees are committed, engaged, and your students are also engaged. And importantly, train your managers and teachers to be more comfortable, understanding. So because you need to know that the students may have their own troubles. They may say that I don't have enough internet bandwidth. I have only one laptop in my house. I have to share with my brothers. I have to share with my sisters. So whatever it is, try to come up with some sort of solution to take care. I would say in the end, you have to look at 4 C's. Okay, so make sure that your communication is good, exercise caution, take care of things, and be compassionate. So this would actually help you to engage your employees and the students. So that's about the engagement strategies. Let's move to the last part of our discussion about what is going to happen to higher education post-COVID. I will say that it will definitely change, and you will see a surge in online education. Okay, so when online education is going to go up, technically it is going to provide opportunities to wider people across the world. And importantly, the cost of education will be down. Okay, because you will be able to record the lessons. Everything is online, so you deliver once, then it's going to be technically be available always. So this is going to be the new norm, which is going to be new normal, I would say. The traditional brick and mortar schools have to relook at their capacity. So another way is actually, I will actually say, in Singapore, already I told you business continuity plan is common. So if we want to actually get funding from the government, they have actually told, not now actually, so 5-6 years before itself, we should have 30% of our classes blended. So blended, it can be work-based learning or it can be online. So most of us actually choose online. So meaning is almost all the institutions in Singapore, so who actually get funding from the government, they, out of 10 classes, 3 classes is done online. So they have little bit of infrastructure set up already done. Plus also the student is aware of this. Plus also the staff is also aware of this. Of course, everybody likes face-to-face, but in the end, they have been exposed, so things get better actually. So if you ask me what is going to happen to the traditional brick and mortar, so if you have a capacity of 100 students or 1,000 students, because of blended learning, what is going to happen is 30% of your place is going to be free. So meaning is, instead of 1,000 students, you may end up recruiting 1,300 students. So that is possible. So traditional brick and mortar will have to look at better capacity utilization. So meaning is you should be able to have run multiple shifts of students. Okay. Plus the training needs will also change. So last time you may not have actually looked at digital economy, how to actually do things digitally. But now it's time for you to move towards digital training. Okay. And importantly for teachers, you have to look at pedagogical training. Okay, I will tell you that it's not easy to teach online for a traditional teacher. So you guys have to actually change. Okay, so for example, in Singapore, all our classes is a 3-hour session. So it's a 3-hour session. So first week when I asked my teachers to go and teach online, okay, so same set of slides, they went in and they delivered. Okay, what happened was they were unable to teach beyond normally 180 minutes. Most of them stuck with 120, 127, 140, 160. So like that, they are unable to hit that 180. So meaning is, when it is face-to-face, the student asks questions, you have little bit of time to turn back and write on the board. And you ask questions, student answers. The discussion level is slightly better and different. But for online, it's going to be, you're facing the computer and talking. You don't really know what is happening on the other side. So there needs to be some tweaking of your delivery. So your pedagogical training for online is also very, very important. So what we have done here is we have made it mandatory for all our teachers to study a couple of courses on online. So they have to study courses about teaching online. And there is something, there is one University of Illinois from US. So I have made it mandatory for all my teachers to actually study past that. So by that way, they go through the course as a student and they understand how the techniques are being used. So I would say that something like this, you have to actually start looking at it. End of the day, the digital economy is here to stay. So you guys have to actually come up with something to address that. Okay. So if you look at the 2018, I just want to give you a data. So online education, 2018, if you see, it is only 15%. Okay, so and it is very, very uneven and hard. So it's not that every student is happy, everybody is okay with that. But post-COVID, things might change. So you know that things are actually changing a lot. So a lot of online classes have been conducted, webinars. Last time online webinar is a little bit unusual. Now it has become very, very common. So everybody is able to actually work online now. So I, in fact, read a data which actually says the broadband connection in India has actually gone up. The demand for broadband connection in India has gone up by 35%. So comparatively before March and after that. So you can see that things are going to change. So you have to start working towards that. Okay. Other than that, I would also say that the higher education institutions will have a little bit of a bigger pie to aim at, provided you are able to do a better job. So around 40% of the students who were planning to travel overseas, these students will actually stay back. So they will not be actually, they will have little bit of changed or delayed their study abroad plans due to the current crisis. So because of this, I would say that the local institutions, the institutions within India and respective countries will have more students in. So you have to also look at this particular group. Okay. So my last bit is about the higher education online teaching tips. So little bit of tips I would say is plan your online learning, how the student is going to do it. So come up with the learning activities and also look at something related to assessments. So that's one of the major topics across the world now, how to do assessments, because it is not that always you can have an assignment based or dissertation based or report based. You may have to have always a little bit of exam related. So how are you going to do that? So that is something you have to take care of it. Okay. Other than that, engaging and motivating the students, evaluating things are very important. You have to, it's not always like what we are doing now. This is webinar. Okay, this is webinar. So even here, it is possible to actually have a little bit of interactive tools. I know that this facility has a little bit of polls and other things, which we can actually do it. So try to make all those, your lessons to be interactive. There are a few tools I would say is EduPuzzle. EduPuzzle, you can actually do something similar to YouTube videos. Edupuzzle.com is one which you can use it. And other way is actually you can even do a wiki. You can come up with a wiklet.com. So that would actually help you. And one more tool I would say is peerdeck.com. So this actually helps, and the presentation itself can actually be an interactive one. So where the students, you might ask a question and get the feedback and make it as a formative assessment. So this is actually possible. These are a few tips which I wanted to actually tell you. Okay, so engaging the students during this online period, you make sure that try to see whatever way you can actually engage them. Call them, text them. Okay, make it compulsory. They have to everyday log in. So I told you that all my students have to every day have to deposit, have to actually give a declaration. They have to check their temperature. They have to say that they're healthy, they're okay, they are studying, they're attending classes. They have to declare 10 questions. It's a Google online one, so they have to do it. And act on the report data. So whatever you get a report, you have to actually act on that. And come up with the assignments to be more meaningful and relevant. Tell the students more about, so don't, when I say meaningful and relevant assignments, make sure that your questions are relevant to COVID-19 situation. Don't actually tell them that they should actually do, you have to submit a dissertation and it have to be a face-to-face. It cannot be. So all the students who are in dissertation now cannot do face-to-face. They have to do an online one. So personal interview, face-to-face interviews, telephonic interview, yes. So you have to look at all those things on your assignments part. Explain your expectation. Tell your students right at the starting, this is what I want. This is what have to be done. So do that. Okay. So assess their online readiness to try to give a little bit of training, help them in time management, and always try to have a live element. So don't actually make it as you record and post it. Okay. Don't do that actually. So you can do recording and posting, but make sure that you do these small things. Okay, so end of the day, I would say have a personalized touch. This is what I would say some online teaching tips. As a teacher, you can actually look at it. Okay, so I come to the end of my session. So I would say that what we have discussed today is very important. Look at each of these topics, we can actually talk a lot. Okay, so but with the want of time, I would actually say that this will be your takeaways. Understand something about business continuity plan, what we spoke about. So we did something on appointing a business continuity manager, roles, responsibility, contact tree, creating a safe work environment. And we spoke about policies for work from home. We also did discuss something about engagement strategies, student engagement strategies, employee engagement strategies. We also did something about higher education post COVID-19, how it's going to be, so how it's going to evolve, how the business have to actually respond. And lastly, we also spoke about some of the online teaching tips. That's the thing which we have discussed for the day. Thank you. Stay safe. Be healthy.
Thank you, Ishwar. We had a nice session. One question which one of the person has asked, like most affected business is the college has been the most affected community in the COVID. But we talk about online teaching and online virtual classes. How can it be made effective in India? For example, the students always complain with lots of points saying that they don't have net neutrality, they don't have laptops. But is there any other method through which we can come out with a model wherein we can make it more effective? This is one question asked by one person from Sri Lanka.
Okay, so I understand it's going to be a problem. See, important thing here is we have to be connected with our students. Okay, so there is no other option. So if you have to be connected, you have to be connected. So if there is an issue with student being connecting with you, then you have to address that. So, for example, it might be different stakeholders like governments coming up and saying that, okay, so this particular period, the data is going to be this much. So I don't mind actually waiving off 50%, 30%, 20% like that. Government actually might waive off few things. For example, I know that there is something which is happening in India. They're giving a little bit of subsidies and other things as a whole. So government is coming up with a package. In Singapore, for example, what happened is the government has announced more than $100 billion of package for us. That goes to the extent that some of our rentals have been waived off. So 3 months rental has been waived off for certain type of institutions. So our certain taxes have been looked into it. So there are many ways they are actually giving us a little bit of money to support during this particular period. So one of the ways is about the data. So if you say the student is unable to get the data, or I know some of them say that it is a 3-hour session you're having it. So the moment I switch on my handphone automatically, within 1 hour, my entire data is gone with video being streamed. So these type of problems definitely will happen. But you guys have to address it. Maybe a little bit of people, you have to say, okay, 20 GB free to all students, or the institutions, or the business community come and say that, okay, so the business community says, okay, we support, or the Actel or whatever is the companies, they actually have to say that this is tough time. So let me actually support it with you additional, all students 5 GB data, 10 GB data, something they can do it. But there is no answer to run away from connectivity. We have to be connected. Face-to-face is no longer possible. It's going to be only online. Okay, you may have questions like, oh, okay, so can I actually record everything, send to my student? It is possible, but the biggest worry down there is you will not be able to interact with your student. So the communication is going to be an issue down there. Okay.
You have any question?
Yes, sir. Hello. Yes, sir. Actually, this is the question which I have received from the chat box. Sir, can you hear this voice? Sir, can you hear? Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes,
I cannot hear.
Sir, shall I ask the question now?
Please ask the question.
Yeah. So after Corona, the China market's share gets low and India share will be increased. So it's a question asked by P. Vasikaran.
Okay.
Whether the Indian share will get increased. So such kind of question asked.
I would say that it's much of a macro issue what we are actually looking at it. So the answer is not that straightforward. Okay, so the Chinese markets are across the world have deep roots. The business cannot be actually looked at things of comparing two different countries at this point of time. It's not only China and the another country. So there are a lot of other countries down there. I would say that the way the business, the way things are conducted in China is far different than what we see in a few other countries. And as I was telling you, I've visited almost every other part of China. I have visited there a few times, covered right from Beijing, Shanghai, Chengdu, all different places, Yunnan. So I've covered all east, west, north, south. Okay, I will tell you that the country is so well built, very well organized for various reasons. So if you have to compete with them, you have to compete with them really, really well. So at the moment, there are few areas, countries like India and Sri Lanka, they are actually competing. Countries like Vietnam are competing. But again, it is only in few areas. It's not every area. If you have to do that, it's going to be much, much better. I have traveled India also, across different parts of India. I will tell you that the growth which I saw in China 7 years before, I'm yet to see in India. So we may actually compare China aspiration, but actually the level of development there is very, very high. You will look at all GDP, everything, so that actually gives you all sort of information.
Okay. Shall I ask one more question?
Yes.
Also in the chat. Okay. Okay. So, what is the possible resources strategies retain employees and students? So, hope you can get my question. You know.
Yes, you're asking about how to actually retain your employees and students. Okay, I will tell you that it's going to be it's going to be a very tough period. What each and every organization, every institution and school are going through, and I will tell you that it's going to be even worse. Why I say it is going to be even worse is you're looking at the problem of a pandemic, but you have to also look at the economy side. Because of this pandemic, so 4 months, 5 months, 3 months, people are not producing anything. The productivity is almost nil, or very, very few industries are actually doing something. You can see that we will be stepping inside a recession soon. And if I'm not wrong, we may even enter, some of the economists predict that we are going to enter into even depression. If this is going to happen, so it's going to be very, very tough. So I would actually say that you have to engage your employees, you have to engage your students, make them understand what is happening. And then you have to work together and you have to come up with your own resilience. So how am I going to do better? Okay, so I will tell you that there is one video which actually tells about can government say companies not to sack people? So there was a question asked. The answer is something like this. The minister says that I cannot ask the companies not to sack people, because if they do that, they are going to bleed. Okay, because they're going to bleed. So they will definitely, the cutting of manpower cost will actually happen. So if that is going to happen, what will happen is they will trim their cost and they will become profitable. When they become profitable, then they will be able to hire. So now already their resources are stretched. If I'm actually pushing them, hey, don't fire, then it's going to be very difficult. That's type of things is happening. As companies, I would say that you have to take stock of what you have, and you have to work towards that. That is for your employees. For students, you have to reassure and you have to see how better you are during this particular period. So maybe you have little bit of flexible payment arrangements, something like that. So instead of, it's going to be a service industry. So the moment you don't take the students because he doesn't have money to pay you, then you have a very big problem. So this year is gone, the year is gone. So you can't actually take it. So come up with some sort of optional things. Lobby with the government to look at a little bit of plans, loans. So whatever is your vendors, you have to pay a little bit of lobbying that side. So you have to work collectively. Nothing can be done here.
Okay.
It's a big problem.
Okay. Such a excellent presentation you have given today, sir, and you have clearly explained all the points, starting from the business continuity plan, and because you have given a detailed summary even at the last slide, so people can able to recall what it is. I request our CEO, sir, to continue. Sir?
No. You can go ahead, sir. You can propose the vote of thanks.
Okay. So it's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks. It is my privilege to convey my sincere thanks to Dr.Easwaramoorthy, the principal and provost, Amity Global Institute, Singapore. He spent his valuable time with us for sharing his knowledge related to business continuity plan. I thank you very much, sir, for your the past 1 hour you spent your time, and you explained each and every concept very clearly to the participants. I thank you, sir. And I thank our beloved secretary, EGS Pillay Group of Institutions, the trustee, and the CEO, sir, and the principal who encouraged us to organize this event a grand success. I thank all the participants for your enormous support to organize these events. I thank you one and all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. An instruction to the participants, you will receive a mail with the feedback to generate the certificate. Thank you all for participating.
Okay. Thank you. In case you have any doubts, you can always drop an email to me. I'll be happy to actually respond to you guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.